and can completely understand the state of mind of a religious person and know exactly how a Muslim feels and how their cultural values are strongly influenced by religion in regions where Islam is the dominating authority.
Can you move a little closer to the mic?
Oh, so I'm not moving. Is that good?
Yes.
It's okay now? Okay, my discussion today is about harm Abrahamic religions cause to humanity and why their damage cannot be fixed easily for many generations. Putting aside the suffering they caused historically through war, torture, and discriminatory treatment towards minority groups, homosexuals, children, etc., and focusing on one aspect only, which is how women were treated and how the damage continues, we'll understand why their harm must end now to save humanity before it's too late. I come from Mesopotamia, the land of the first documented civilization known in history, the Sumerian civilization, which lasted more than 1,000 years. The mythical stories this civilization created inspired a lot of civilization that followed, like the Babylonians, Assyrian, Egyptians, the Akkadians, and the Greeks, to name a few. If you read the stories by the Babylonians, which were passed to them by the Sumerian, about creation of earth, man, the seven heavens, God's names, duties, Noah's and Moses' stories, you'll find an almost word-for-word translation between them, and that is in Torah. Judaism is the foundation of Christianity and Islam. So when the foundation is wrong, the rest cannot be right. It took me a great deal of research and study to get my faith back. In the end, I had to gather my courage to admit that I had faith in a myth, which is no different from other myths, that I was no different from children who strongly believed in Santa Claus and the fairy tales. The depressing part wasn't about the afterlife, but it was the damage we created, the unjustness, the violence, and the ugliness in this harsh world. This means there is no divine fix, no contrition for the lost innocent lives, no punishment for the bad, and that evil is endless. But when I looked deeper, I found that almost all evil deeds were committed by men of religion. Wars, bloodshed, weapons, and mass killings, all because people think deeply that they were defending their religious values. See, the mic is coming right between the paper and my eyes. It's really hard. But the Abrahamic religions are the worst that were founded on earth. Not saying other religions are better in interpreting reality or helping humans and humanity. However, no religion has had as much conflict amongst its followers on a massive scale and managed to cause so much hatred and bloodshedding, violence, and the oppression of peoples and denying their rights to normal living. Perhaps religions were needed at some point in humanity's life, but we grew out of this need and must realize that despite how comfortable it is to some, it is nothing but outdated false data, and that it is about time we take responsibility for our lives and build a better future for the next generations to live in peace and harmony. Monotheistic religions might be a step in religious evolution, but the violence that they have outweighs any beauty they might have. The Old Testament is full of stories, bloody stories like the Quran, guiding the believers on how to kill and or torture the non-believers. What's happening in countries like Afghanistan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Syria, and the horror continues. Palestinian and Israeli conflict wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for those three religions. The Jews, God's chosen people who got the promised land, Muslims, the best nation on earth, who will rise above all nations and will kill all the Jews and all the non-believers. And of course, we don't need to go over the details of how Jews were mistreated and discriminated against by Christians in Europe and by Muslims in the Middle East. All this hatred, violence, discrimination, etc. can end once religions end. However, the negative impact done onto humanity in the treatment of women will take generations to recover. In the Western world, women were pronounced to be a person about a century ago. 600 years ago, Christians were debating whether women have souls. Christian women do not have authority over their body, their husbands do. And they are commanded by their Bible to submit to their husbands as they do to their gods. In Islam, women are considered as a half-brained, half-person. Men are entitled to punishing their wives or their women by beating. The veil that was forced on women's face by Islam was also faced on her by Judaism. In fact, if you look at those two religions, you'll find an almost identical belief and rituals. You'd wonder why they hate each other that much. You can consider the creative disrespect women get in Judaism is not too far from that is in Islam. Women still today work extra hard to prove their qualifications for male-dominated jobs. I've personally experienced it twice, as an engineer back home and as a software developer in my current home. Women in our free country are still faced with assault, rape, name-calling, etc. They even, even after removing religions, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear myself. So where was I? Yeah, the name calling. Even after removing religion's authority from the law, this didn't end it, however. It's just reduced the brutal and nonsensical restrictions. As civilizations evolved, women also evolved, but from strong hunter female to a weak submissive creature struggling for her identity. The least these religions could have done if they were truly divine is bringing justice to her. Not only did they fail, but they made it worse over the time. To them, a woman's role is traditionally known as to serve her man sexually and produce children. In all these wonderful religions, women are nothing but properties of men. It is sealed in their holy books. And to justify it, they wrapped her with the sacred cover called motherhood, which made sex an impossible association with her as a human. This is the exact reason women in Islamic areas get stoned or lashed for adultery, or young girls left victims of honor killing if they engaged in sexual activity outside marriage. Governments accept this because it's socially respected value. In the free world, women are equal according to the law, thanks to the great activists who are mainly non-religious and likely atheists. The law forced respect and equality for women. But does that mean it's the case socially? My 14-year-old daughter is all about equality and respect of human rights, and she applies this with her peers. What she notices sometimes is that sexism is a hidden, unaware of quality among some of them too. For example, women's place in the kitchen. Women cannot be involved in police force or be doctors. And that she hears it from her peers, which is surprising. I'm talking 14-year-old. Today, we describe a sexually active man as a stud, whereas if it was a woman, she's a slut. We don't need to go over the series of name-calling women get. It didn't happen without a reason. If sex had normal value, like food and other activities in life, it wouldn't have been highlighted as much, and women wouldn't have been the easy target, thanks to the traditional status they receive from their religion. Unfortunately, in many cases, men are not the only people to blame. Women are a very strong reason why religion persists. Women are great defenders of tradition. It makes you wonder why or how can a person defend the reason for their disgrace? You might find it hard to connect religious roots to all this, but using a little comparison with primitive ancient tribes, where sex is nothing more than a natural behavior, no reverence, no deprivation or suppression, it's likely you won't see sexual profanity targeting women. Animals, as uncivilized creatures without religion's organizations, hold more respect to their females than a lot of religious humans. They don't rape. They don't perceive their females are helpless properties. In fact, females are as strong as their male counterparts. In most of the cases, just like human females used to be before they got herded by male domination. Sad to say, religious men and culture stripped women of their power and self-belief. Just look at the majority of women today. Get less rewarding jobs. Some are only breeding machines to get government money. And even more, some leech on wealthy men. There are a lot of great examples of educated, strong, and prestigious women, but they're not enough to alter the brainwashing done by law, expectation, societal stereotypes, and to boost self-confidence, ambition, and determination to be and do better. The problem is worse than a lot might think. See, the reason Islam and Christianity are the largest in the world is not because of their marvel, but because of the historical expansion done by either force or manipulation. Fearing the rapid growth of Islam, Christians are now actively recruiting. Islam is growing faster because Muslims are actively recruiting. It's hurtful to see how young energy is wasted in recruiting to serve their divinity instead of serving humanity. Islam, in fact, is growing faster among women, even though there is no real significance to its delivery. What makes a free woman choose degrading herself yet claims she is becoming more respected and free? Because Muslims are using smarter and more manipulative methods. As Muslim men find a way to attract naive young women, or women, to fall in love with them, feeding on their vulnerability, the brainwashing starts. Some of them reach to the extremes of fanaticism by wearing the facial veil or even volunteer for suicide bombing. And I actually, based on real stories, it's not like I'm just making this up. I witnessed two of my friends fall victims of such attempts. I managed to save one, but the other had to go through harsh circumstances to realize the dirty game played on her. The problem that people who do the recruiting are always the fanatics, which makes our future really scary. A lot might find in my discussion a harsh anti-religion statement, but over time until now, atheists suffered discrimination, torture, and death by people of faith. They hardly made a loud noise, yet they received brutal treatment. Atheists never ask people to stop believing. All they wish to see is equal treatment, respect, and freedoms and rights. We must feel free to express our thoughts, even if they sound harsh. We can't be forced to accept somebody's God by their nonsense and their nonsense rules. Just look at the religious groups in the US. They're trying to force their Bible in legislation and lawmaking, from all the way from homosexuality to science and education. In Islam, girls are denied childhood and equal freedom with boys because of their gods and unacceptable rules. If you wish to enjoy your religion, that's nice. Just keep it to yourself. Stop forcing your God on me, on my life, and that is of my children. Muslims and Christians criticize me. They give themselves the right to judge me and discuss my thoughts and feelings as an atheist. It feels like they figured me out without ever walking in my shoes, whereas I walked in theirs for a very long time. I know exactly what they think and feel and why. It really doesn't make sense for somebody to give an expert talk about something they really don't know. I thought I had high moral values and respectful human views. Ironically, I thought I wasn't a feminist. When I stepped out of religion, I saw the bigger picture and discovered I was all wrong. I worked hard to correct my morality, learned how to truly respect humanity, freedom of choice, and respect of life as a whole. I invite my friends to take a step back and look from a wider angle. Don't just take your religion's word for it. Challenge yourself, reevaluate what you know, and please step out of your pride to hold hands with the human beside you to build a better life now and for generations to come. I'd like to quote from my dearest friend who usually insists on the fact that humans have nothing but each other. Without the help of each other, we basically speed up our extinction. Without helping each other, we cannot stay longer. So we really need to rely less on other divinity help and on each other only to live longer. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. Any comment or question for Nina? Zahra Naqvi and then Tahir Kazmi.
I have a question.
I'll come to you. Zahra Naqvi.
With your support and talk, so it's up. But I want to welcome Nina to the Happy of the Heart. I think we were waiting for a lady like her to come and talk about these topics because I don't think we are fulfilling these topics in these scenarios. So I really welcome you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Tahir Kazmi.
Something that quickly comes to my mind, in the very end of her talk, she said that the humans are meant for each other. Someone to paraphrase. If I understand in terms of isms, humanism correctly, that's not humanism, that's humanity. So from that standpoint comes to my mind the topic in the email from the family of Hart that we received, what is humanism and what is atheism? So my question is, how does our paper enhance my understanding of any of or both of these topics?
Anyhow, that's I think what we were trying to do was to bring some people who have been pondering on those questions, who are either consider themselves an atheist or a humanist, and give them an opportunity to share, so that from a concept that I think Abrar started with, the concept of atheism in an abstract way. Our hope was to bring some human beings who can share with all of you what it is to be a humanist, what it is to be an atheist, what do they do, like Marx said. Otherwise, you don't associate health and food and whatever with atheism and humanism or women's issues. So it is sort of an idea of bringing them to you. And I hope that this discussion does not end with a seminar, that these people have opened their hearts and minds. You can comment, you can ask questions. The idea is to start this dialogue that hopefully will continue on our website. We need.
But you know, I think we should be very careful in confusing the philosophies, such as humanitarian attitude equating with humanism. I think it's a grave mistake and confusing the minds of the young folks who are around.
Okay. I think that the question here is that there would be, if there are 1 billion Muslims, there will be 1 billion definitions of Islam. So if there are 1,000 atheists or humanists or secularists or humanists, so the idea is there is no standard definition. Each one of us are trying to define. So for me, my nameplate when humanist on my car, the guy who puts the pump gas, he asked me, who are humanists? So I say humanists are those who think human beings are more important than gods. That I just my one line. Anyhow, Munir Sami.
I agree with everything that she said. The religions are bad, they're bad to women, that's all done. We have passed those questions. We are now what we call a post-feminist society, if we put terms into that. What I respect is that she is in Canada as a country of her own choice. The Western society, with the Western secular society that I kind of profess all the time, it has overcome or tried to overcome 18, 19, 100 years of difficulties that existed in the name of religion, and these societies have created a space for her, for me, and for others. So what we have to see is that we cannot always equate injustice toward women to religion in these societies. For example, she said she had a problem of her own because she didn't find a better job or equal job as an IT professional. It's got nothing to do with the religion. Not to find for her daughter doctors and police women and army women in a society is probably so new for them that they have not yet seen what this society has evolved to. This society, when I go on TV and talk, they believe very strongly in what we call Judeo-Christian values. But all of those values have been converted into a very recognized secular space where we respect your religion, we respect you, your gender, we create those gender equalities. So again, the topic diverges because we talk about religion and suddenly you start jumping into here and there, as Tahir Qazi is saying, not coming to what we are here to discuss. So we are all coming here with a lot of respect for and I clearly accept that Islam and Judaism and Christianity does all kind of things to women. But the Western societies where we've chosen to live have evolved to a sense that at least despite the 50-50 equality, and parties here, gender equality, are the NDP, for example, that I belong to, are fighting very hard for gender equality either within the party. Liberal Party is doing the same, conservatives are doing the same. So we have to kind of differentiate between those problems, generally with the problem of the religion against women.
Do you want to make a comment? Yeah, go ahead.
What I said, and I mentioned that, it's hard to relate religious roots to the effect that religions actually and the damage they cause to women. And I deliberately mentioned what's happening in the Western world and how after 100 years of liberation, she's still struggling. And I'm not talking about just personally, because I told you, look and see majority. They are in the less rewarding job sector. That doesn't tell me equality. Lawmaking people are mainly men. Women are still secondary in choices. I see in the companies and I see in governments, women sometimes, and the funny thing in Iraq, after the democracy was brought to this country, I see women being as part of the referendum how to form the parliament, and it has to be 2-1 or something like that. And most of women are just becoming a decorative accessory to just fulfill the requirements. And a lot of jobs here also, when I check are you a minority or a woman or something, because we have to fulfill that agenda. That doesn't take me anywhere. The law is actually forcing equality, yet socially is still far behind, because there are a lot of women who stand in front of churches fighting against abortion of the right of freedom of choice. And there are a lot of women who are also supporting their men against homosexuals. And there are still a lot of women defending religions and fighting those who are against even the headscarf that Muslims wear. I personally, as Muslim, when I was walking, people tell me, you're perfect if you're just wearing this little piece of cloth on your head. As if that will define me as a human. And even a lot of women now think the women who are showing their faces, unfortunately growing really a lot. Women covering their face. So those even who are showing their face, they are being looked at as, how could they do that? So you're saying in the free world? In the free world, Islam is growing actually faster, and I see that. I see a lot of women who are Western women brought up in the free culture, and I see them converting and actually putting the veil on their faces. And I watch that a lot on videos and internet, and of course media. So yes, we are in the free world, and we have gone a long way, but women are still struggling.
I'll have to respond to that. I'm sorry, I have to enter into the debate, because the thing here is not what you're saying is wrong. What you're saying is right. It's a question of observation. Look at the Supreme Court decisions in Canada. Look at the Supreme Court decision in the USA. Roe versus Wade is not overturned yet. In Canada, abortion is legal. All of these things are legal. So Canadian laws have evolved to give women the rights that they should be truly theirs. The society has not evolved to that level that you would expect it to evolve, but give the society some time to do that. And those discriminations they're talking about in jobs and others are not being done on religion. That's my point of view.
2, 3 quick comments. Let me just go ahead.
I'm interested in Nini's experience with the men, the relatives, friends, the men who come over with their wives in solid marriages, Muslim people, have solid religion, and then the women like you sort of escape that bondage and start getting free and free thinking and thinking, like you do, as you just mentioned, which I agree with, of course. So what's the evolution of these guys, or these men, who want to stay with the wives, but want to keep them under control, at the same time want to keep their marriage together, want to make sure their kids grow up as good Canadians, you know, tolerant, and so forth and so on. So in your experience, you know, how do these men, you know, handle this metamorphosis between solid husbands? You, I can't talk to you, sorry. Between, you know, between a solid husband, but still religious, and a wife that's, you know, has broken away from a husband's bondage. Maybe not you, maybe your friends were not in that position. I just wondered in general, what your opinion is of these guys, these men that still maintain a strong religion, but the wife has broken away like you have from the traditional position, yet maintain a solid marriage. I presume you do.
To be honest, I noticed that women are stronger in keeping religion than men. I was Muslim and he was Muslim, and I was forcing religious values on him. I literally threw the beer in the sink when I see it, like somewhere. It is haram. This is not supposed to be drunk. I was forcing them not to eat pork and stuff. She was sneaking behind my back, and I didn't. So a lot of things, women are actually stronger in holding this. And when women actually step out, which takes a lot of courage, trust me, it's not easy. But when she does, she actually helps the family to enlighten a little bit and take it on ease. So the free man become freer.
Quick comment and we'll go further.
Quick comment. I understand, I don't want to be offensive. However, women are kind of neglected even in religion. I would say that all the prophets were men. How come there wasn't any woman prophet? I would also say, that are we only there to create men who are going to dictate us? You know, we are just producing machine that they're just going to tell us how to live our life. Also, all the religious leaders, they brainwash women. So when they are raising young ones, they spend more time, regardless of change of society and everything.